respect to everyone in the Man Them Chat this week. This week we have a special guest speaker in the house, Mr. Johnson Oredein. I hope I've got that right.
Yeah.
Johnson is the service manager for East London Foundation Trust Mental Health Services. Is it for Bedfordshire, Johnson, or is it just Bedford?
For Bedford.
For Bedford, yeah. So he's just going to be coming in to talk about his journey from growing up in South East London to where he is now as the service manager for the mental health services in Bedford. So over to you, Johnson.
Thank you for Mark for the invite. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Johnson Oredein. As Mark said, I'm the service manager, head of operations for Bedford Community Mental Health Services. So I guess part of my job now, I cover and I manage the community mental health services in Bedford Borough. To be here with you all. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask as we go along. If anyone wants me to talk about any specific topics, then please feel free to say. I guess you can put things in the chat if you want. If not, I'll just just start talking. So growing up, I guess my mum came over in the early 80s, came to London. I guess for her it was hard because she came over on her own, no family. So she came to, I guess, learn, as I think a lot of our parents did, came to learn, make a living. And I guess at the time, it was very hard. I think a lot of you may have experienced some of the racism which was around in the 80s. It wasn't it definitely wasn't an easy time. And, to God be the glory, things are a lot easier for us now. And at the time, I guess, she had some health struggles. So because of that, I ended up in care with a very loving, kind foster family. And they looked after me for I guess, a period of time when I was very young. So I went back to my mum. And, she did her best. But growing up in the inner city London, it was very easy to fall in with the wrong crowd of people. And I found myself with friends and some extended family members in my early teen years who were involved in gang activity. And I guess it would have been very easy to join them because, you see them having money, and knowing that your mum doesn't have the most money, you want to try and help provide and also get good things for yourself, because when you're going to school and your trainers are the worst trainers, and people are using that to ridicule you, and there's an opportunity, then it's very easy to say, okay, I'll just do this and do that and be able to get myself better trainers, better clothes, a few name brands. So that was very easy. Fortunately, I guess because of my mum's strong words, I've managed to keep myself out of trouble, which was very good. I did land myself in trouble when I was in school, in secondary school, to the fact that I got involved in an altercation with another person from another school, and got arrested by the police, and I received a caution. And at the time, the policeman said, this is going to be on your record for a few years. It was going to come off in a few years' time. It's just a caution, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, I accepted it. And that's something which, is still on my record now. I think because I work with vulnerable people and vulnerable adults, every time I go for a job, this is there on my record. So saying that, at a point 25 years ago, I was involved in an altercation which ultimately there was an act of violence which I committed against another person. And this is something which does and has followed me around. I will say that when I was younger and I first started within healthcare, and even when I started my training, I had to go for an interview and they said, you have this on your record. Can you explain yourself? So that was, I guess, the first time when I had to explain that what I did. And fortunately, I've not allowed it to hold me back too much. I have been to jobs and they've said, this could be a problem for you. Having a caution on your record is not what we want within our organization. However, I've been able to say that, this is something which happened in the past. Since then, I've not been charged with any offense. Not to say that I've not been in or close to trouble, but as we get older, we get smarter, which means I've been able to kind of stay away from trouble. So I guess that was part of my younger years growing up. So I decided at one point in my life that I was going to move into healthcare. I think being a Black man, I'd say from young, I always felt the need to want to help people. It was something which my mum did. She wanted to be a nurse. She was a support worker. She managed a supported living, but she really wanted to be a nurse. So I decided, what is my gift to the world? What is it that I enjoy doing? And what I enjoy doing is helping people who can't necessarily help themselves, or helping people who are the underdogs, championing their causes and trying to help their life and turn it around for the better. So that's why I decided, okay, I'm going to go into healthcare, and that's what I did. So I started off as an OT back in 2004, 2005. And then I started working with people with learning disabilities. After that, working with people with autism, and then moving into mental health.
Sorry, Johnson. Just for those who don't know, what does OT?
Sorry. Thank you for that. So OT is occupational therapy. So occupational therapy, it's I guess OTs are like other healthcare workers. However, what OTs tend to do is we tend to help people get back to what they do. So for instance, like a physiotherapist, if you broke some bones, they'd help you regain how to walk and things like that. So OTs, I guess if you broke maybe some bones in your hand, we'd help you get back to doing like your day-to-day things. That might be combing your hair, shaving, cooking, cleaning, all those things which people do, or which they need to do to be able to live a fulfilled life. So within mental health, being an OT is slightly different. So we often look at housing as the most basic, and we assess people to see what skills they have. So it might be your ability to go to the shops, cook food, access education, those sorts of things. So OT, I guess one of the reasons it appealed to me the most was because looking at healthcare, there's often very defined ways of doing things. Like nurses, often they'll ensure that people are taking their medication, and things like that. But with OT, we rely on people's own skills. So we see the skills that you have as your strengths, and then we try and help you in a way which is meaningful to you. So I guess, for instance, bathing, bathing is a big thing. And when I first started, I remember doing an assessment with a gentleman on the ward. I used to work in Lewisham at the time, and we went to his house, And, you know, we said, oh, you know, how do you bath? And I went with another OT, another lady, white lady, middle-aged lady. And he said, oh, you know, what I do is, you know, I boil the kettle, pour it in a bucket, top it up with hot water, then get the bowl and, you know, put it on me. And that's how I do it. And the lady said, oh no, this is, she said, you know, this is no way for a person to bath. That, you know, what you're meant to do is you're meant to turn the taps on, fill the bath, and then get in the bath. And the man said, but I've never done this. That's not how I do. This is not how I do it. I've never done things like this. So firstly, I can't afford to run all that hot water. So that doesn't make sense. You know, I can't afford to. He said, you know, kettle, boil the kettle, bam, that's me, bucket and bath. So I went back to the office, and the lady, she said, oh, you know, this is no thing. That what we need to do, we need to get him some adaptations so he can have a bath and get him a bath board. And I said, you know, but thinking about it, this is how Black people often do bath. You know, boil the kettle, or sometimes if you don't have a kettle, boil the pot on the stove, put it in the bucket, and then, you know, you tip the water on you. You know, the bath for a lot of people is not to submerge yourself into the water and sit there for, you know, 5-10 minutes and then come out. And she was like, oh yeah, I'm not sure. I said, but you know, this is the reality of the situation. This is how people with different cultures do things. And I said, you know, in what we're doing, we have to obviously respect that that's his wishes, that's his desire. And we have to, you know, find a way for him to be able to do that. So I guess that was part of the challenges. And that's part of why, you know, I like OT, because, you know, it's about teaching or helping people do things which are meaningful in a way which is meaningful for them. So I guess that was a big draw. So mental health services. So I guess that's a bit of what OT is, and a bit of why I enjoy it and why I love it. So working in services, I guess I've been working in services for quite a while. Moving to Bedford, I can tell you some of the struggles I've been through. I think Bedford it's a very interesting place. And I know some of you have been in and around Bedford for a long time. But when I came to Bedford, it was very different for me. I guess working as a Black man within services, in that most of the managers which I knew, or which I saw, there wasn't really many or any Black managers. And to me, it's not an issue, because it's only an issue if it starts to become an issue when I'm trying to work with people and they're not being receptive. So it makes me start to question, you know, what is going on. And if there's not many Black managers, then the services we're providing, are they respective of people's cultures? And yeah, I think this is something which a lot of mental health people who work in mental health question. And I think on many levels, when you work with people, you have to be able to advocate for their cultural needs and their cultural practices. It's just simple. That's what you're there for, to kind of advocate for people so they're able to live a life which they want to. So I think it has been a struggle. I think working within the mental health services, I think as most of us know, they're not often geared towards, okay, let me take that back. I think most of the time, the routes which Black people take to access mental health services are, I think they put us on the back foot. So I think most Black people tend to come into mental health services not via GP referral, which is the route which most people should take, but it's via crisis services. And when I say crisis services, a lot of the time it's via police. So the police will pick you up. You might be, and you'll be arrested or taken to a place to 136, so which means automatically you go into an acute mental health setting. And when you go into an acute mental health setting, the first thing is being restricted, being sedated, and that automatically means that the treatments which we're offered are not the sort of treatments which are there to maintain our health. They're the treatments which are there to subdue, and also they're there to, I guess, protect others. So we're medicated to subdue us. And I think what we should be trying for is for Black people to be accessing mental health services via GP referral. And that, at that point, we can go through to primary care. We can go through to things like IAP, talking therapies, wellbeing services, where the first point and the first stage is not medication. You need to see a psychiatrist, because once medication starts to become prescribed, it's quite hard to demonstrate the stability to come off the medication. And I'm not saying medication is a bad thing. I'm not. So please don't take that. Don't let that be the takeaway. I think the takeaway is that we as a people need to be accessing services in a way which is beneficial for us, which means we're able to get a variety of treatments, a variety of services, not just acute services. So I guess, one thing which I will say is, if you do have, and I'm sure, if you have friends, colleagues, family members who are going through troubles, which, affecting their mental health, then please talk to them, and talk to them about, how they can access services, and how they can access services at a stage where the services they're receiving, they have options, and they're not just going to be prescribed medication. Because things such as talking therapies, I think that's ideally what people need, and that's how people should be accessing. So I guess one thing I would say is, if you do have friends, family members, or anyone you see who's having troubles, then, talk to them, ask them to see their GP, and for referral through to a wellbeing service or somewhere where they can talk to. But also, I guess, for us, we should be talking. I'm very grateful for Mark and, you guys who have set up this platform, because it gives people a chance to talk about, the troubles they're facing, what's on their minds, and also share that knowledge, because I think that is one thing which is definitely impacting the treatment of Black people within mental health services, the route in which we access. If we're able to access in a different way, then it's more likely we can get better outcomes. Okay, so sorry, I've sidelined a little bit onto that. So working in mental health services, it's been hard. I think looking at my senior colleagues within the organisation and within the area, there's not much diversity. Fortunately, within the organisation as a whole, we're fortunate to have like a Black chief operating officer, Edwin. So he's a very big advocate of sharing, and also of bringing up other people so that they can learn and take on leadership roles. So I think one thing which has definitely benefited my career is being able to have some role models within the organisation who I've been able to talk to, I've actually received mentoring from. And that's gone a long way in helping and also shaping my career. So I think one thing, if I can say to anybody, that, if you know somebody, if you see someone who's in a position where you think you can gain from them, speak to them, ask them, just say, and it could just be as simple as, I admire what you're doing. Is it possible for you to mentor? And I'm sure that if they have, I'm sure that they'll probably say, of course, why not? Because I think people usually are quite happy to share their knowledge and share the steps which they took to get to positions and some tips. So that's definitely one thing I'd advise anybody. If you see someone within where you're working or even outside, and you think that this is someone who I look up to or admire, they've got something to offer, ask them. And I would believe that they will definitely help in that. I think it's rather unfortunate that within Bedfordshire and Bedford we don't have many senior, many people in senior leadership positions. Within the NHS, I think you might find that there's lots of nurses, obviously, in leadership positions, and there is definitely a need for diversity, because I think with diversity becomes the diversity of thought. It gives people the opportunity to trial, create new ways of working with people, start new initiatives. I know that Mark has been doing lots of initiatives for quite a while. And I think, I'm very keen for some of it to become a bit more mainstream and for him to receive funding, because, what he's doing and what he's providing is a service to lots of people. And it's a service which, without him, I'm very sure that lots of people would be falling within the gaps of services. And not only falling in the gaps, but also, what I said is they wouldn't be able to access mental health services which are fit for them and which they can access.
Thank you, sir.
So, I don't know, I'll ask, does anyone have any questions, I guess, to save me waffling on?
Yes,
yes,
I do.
Can I just ask one first, Abdul, before you step in?
Yeah, of course.
Johnson, could you kind of give me a little bit more about, growing? You said that you went in a home, or was it foster care or something?
Yeah, I was in foster care.
How did that? How did you find it? You said it was quite positive. What was it? Was it with a black
No.
family, or was it a white family? Or
so it was with a white family. So some of you might be familiar with a practice which is called farming. I'm not sure if anyone's heard about that. If you haven't,
there's a film in there. Yeah,
there's a film with the guy who was in Oz. He played Debo, and was it Debo? He played someone in Oz. Adebisi. He played Adebisi in Oz. Yeah, so farming. It was something which happened in the late 70s, early 80s. It's when the social care system wasn't as strict. There wasn't as many checks and balances on people. And people used to have informal foster arrangements. So basically, you could advertise your child in a magazine, newspaper, for somebody to foster them informally. So I've still got the magazine I was put up for. I was in. I saw it the other day, and I was like, oh wow, look at this. And I read through the back, and it's just full of adverts, mostly African parents who would come over to work, to study, and had fallen on hard times. And what they used to do, they'd have their children, and then they'd farm them out to white families in anywhere in England. So like I knew people who went as far as Doncaster, Yorkshire, but fortunately, like I was put in, the family who first, my mum first, she said she put the advert in. Said someone answered that I think it was somewhere up north, might have been Hartlepool. So, you know, thank goodness, you know, if not, I'd be speaking with a very different accent now. But yeah, so she went up to see this family. She said, you know, she got on the coach, National Express, got all the way up there, waiting at the bus station for them to come and meet me and meet her. She said they never turned up. So she said, you know, she got back, you know, after a long day on the National Express. She said, you know, someone called up and, you know, she answered, she said, oh, you know, I'm not very sure because, you know, she went to see someone yesterday and they didn't even turn up. So the woman said, no, don't worry, just bring him. You don't even need to bring anything. Like we've got lots of stuff here. So yeah, so I ended up being with this family for quite a few years. And they're a nice family. Like I'm still in touch with them now. I actually took my girls, like my kids, to go and see them this weekend, just gone. So yeah, so it was a positive experience. Like when I got there, they had 2 other Black children, white family, husband and wife. They had 4 kids of their own. 3 kids of their own. But like the mother was very loving, the father was very loving, very kind. So they were very kind Christian family. Like they didn't know how to comb my hair or cream my skin.
The usual.
The usual. So I had very, very dry legs for a long time. Very, 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 very nappy hair for a long time. But they were loving. I think that was the main thing. So yeah, so I was there for quite a few years. And you know, my mum was able to get herself back on her. She started earning some money, you know, her health was a lot better. So I went back to her. And, you know, the family, they did say, you know, they would have been happy to adopt me. However, my mum was like, you know, it's time to come home. So yeah, so I farmed out to white family. And what the parents would do is they'd send their social security check through to that family. And that would be the kind of payment. But this was all unregulated and happening quite a lot back in the late 70s and early 80s.
Yeah, I remember those times.
Abdul, you got a question to ask. You got your hand up.
Go ahead, Abdul.
And then after Elvis, we see you got your hand up as well.
Yeah, it's not a question actually. It's more like a comment, like, you know. Yeah, I mean, what you says resonate with me, Jonathan. It resonate with me so much so that, you know, that it is very, it goes very profound. It is very profound, like, you know, what you said about the mental health system, like, you know, and how it treats people like me or whatever, like, you know. I'm still suffering from trauma right now, like, you know. So every day I'm living through trauma, like you might not even realize it, but I've been going through trauma every single day. I'm suffering, like, you know.
Yeah.
I've actually, you know, the way they've treated me, like, I attempted suicide at least several times on medication. Well, I don't call it medication, I call it poisoning, because it was really poisoning my system. I couldn't bear the pain. I just couldn't bear the torture. It was excruciating. It goes beyond explanation, the pain, and it was so prolonged as well. Like, and they wanted me to be on it for years and years and years.
Yeah.
I said the only way out is to overdose. Get rid of the pain. You know, stop the pain from. And each time they would revive me. And so they would, and every time I keep being admitted to hospital again, they would give me the same kind of drug that would have the same effect. They would say it's a new medication that's come onto the market, and so they would give it to me, and the same thing would happen to me again. I would go through excruciating pain, tremors, agitation, ticks in my face, ticks in my fingers. I was feeling so uncomfortable. You see, that my central nervous system was under attack because I was shaking so much, you know. And they wanted me to do all the normal things. Like I didn't know what to do with myself. They wanted me to do all the normal things, like say go to occupational therapy, and all the kind of stuff. I was unable to do these things. I find it so hard to comb my hair, to brush my teeth. All the basic functions I couldn't do. You see? And they didn't even realize what they were doing to me. So I said to myself, the only way out is to kill myself, because the pain was too much to bear.
Yeah. And I think, Abdul, what you're saying is a very, very common experience for Black people within mental health services. And I think, I'm really sorry that that's been your experience. Because, I think Black people as a people ourselves, we've been through so much trauma. And, what we shouldn't be doing is re-traumatizing people, because we want to try and help them. And I think, because of possibly the way in which you access the services, if it was through, crisis, then the first thing is medication. And that is their standard procedure, because at the time what they want is to sedate you, because of the behavior is a challenge. It's a challenge.
They want to make it easy for themselves. You see, they want to have an easy life. You see, but the thing is, right, is from when I came from. I actually it all happened when I was in prison. Like where my life was in danger. The prison officers, the doctors, the nurses, they were all colluded to kill me in the cell. Very traumatic stuff. Like when I came out of there. I don't know how I managed to get out of there, because they keep trying to undermine me constantly. They keep playing repetitive noises outside the cell door. They keep playing like a broken record day and night. There's a repetitive noise outside the cell door. It was doing my head in, and they were doing it on purpose. You see, they were psychologically trying to break me, and all this kind of stuff. And so I said to myself, I've only got a few weeks in prison. So the only way is stop eating their food, stop drinking their water, because that's the only way that's the only way out of there. Because the food, the water, the air, everything was contaminated. I couldn't breathe in there. The air was very, very toxic, very, very toxic air I was breathing, and my stomach was burning me. I mean, I could go into that. I'm not going to go into into prison, because I say, but I mean, the prison is how I got into the system. Because when I got out of prison, they put me in the system. They put me in the mental health system. You see?
Well, I think it's very good that
when my doctors, they were giving me all this kind of drug that was hurting me. So I can't trust go to my doctor. I can't trust to go to my dentist. I can't trust to go to my optician. I have no trust in the system whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think that's a very common byproduct of what happens, because if you don't have trust in the system, then how can we engage in something which we don't trust?
Yeah,
and I think one good thing is you have this platform which is bringing people together to think about their health, think about their well-being, think about how to support each other to stay healthy and stay well.
Right.
And I think we need a lot more things like this, which are more informal and run by people who we can have trust in.
Elvis, you want to go ahead with the question?
Right. I wasn't really going to be asking a question. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't sussed out how to make this. Oh, yeah, I can see it now. I wasn't going to ask a question. I was just joining, to be honest. I'm at work, so I'll just show my face.
Okay, all right, no worries.
Nice to see.
Very interesting conversations.
Okay.
Nice to see you. Glad you're able to engage in the conversation.
Can I ask you, Johnson?
Yeah, of course.
What qualifications did you have stepping into work?
So
mental health?
So qualifications. So I went to study OT, so that was a degree course. So initially, I went to Luton University to study sports therapy at the time. I had a big interest in sports. I wanted to, my passion was to help people. So I was going to be a sports therapist. So coming out of Luton, being a sports therapist, I found that it wasn't fulfilling. Like the money was quite good. I was doing lots of massage for people. But I think at the time I was working with sports people, and I didn't really feel like I was helping them, to be honest. They're like, oh yeah, I've got tight calves. So I worked with a few football teams. I worked with Millwall on and off. I worked with Charlton on and off, just on an ad hoc basis on the weekends. So we'd go, do massages for the players with after training, after the warm up and that sort of thing. But I didn't feel like I was making a difference. I didn't feel like I was helping. So I went back to university, studied occupational therapy, because I thought, what would probably be helpful for me would be to get a qualification, and also to get a professional qualification. My foster dad said, he used to say that, if you get yourself like a career, like a trade, then you'll never really have to start looking for work. The work will find you. And I thought, I could get myself a trade, but I thought, if I can become a professional, then at least, in society, even though I've got, some, a small police record, I will still be able to, hold my head up high and say, I've made something of myself. So I went to university and got myself an OT degree, and that's what's allowed me to work in health services and in mental health services. And then I think, after that, as a professional and also as a person, it's always good to learn. Learning is amazing, and I know that lots of you are always learning. Researching, learning, making sure that our mind is active and we're learning new skills, because every skill which you learn can it can add to what you are and what you're trying to be. So I did, yeah. So after learning OT, I studied, and I did a bit of some side studying, did some management qualifications, did some leadership qualifications, because I think, as you know, if you're a Black person going for a job, sometimes there are still forces which are against your progress. So it always pays to have extra qualifications more than the other people in the room. So when you go there, you can say, yeah, I've got this management qualification, I've got this leadership qualification. This is how it's going to support me in the job I'm going to do with you guys or for you guys. So lifelong learning.
Right. Okay. So would you say that in your field now, would you say that we're fairly represented?
We're still underrepresented. Still, when I look across the leadership of the services in Bedfordshire, I'd say of maybe the 25 senior leadership roles, there's, I'd say, 3 Black people. 3 Black people. So we're underrepresented. And I guess if we think about in terms of the numbers of Black people who are using the services, they are probably, I'd say at least, yeah, I'd say at least 40, 45%. I think if we look at the makeup of clinicians, like Black people are on the banding. So in the NHS, everything's like banded. So within bands 3 to 6, Black people make up about 65% of the workforce. Right. Yet within leadership positions, we make up less than 5%.
Oh.
So
do you know another black person that's in a higher position than you within the mental health service?
Yeah, so our chief operating officer, Edwin, he's the big boss, the organizational boss. He's a big man, and he's a black man. So he's someone who I've spoken to. He used to mentor me. Every now and then I will give him a call and say, I'm facing this problem, and he'll say, is it racism? And sometimes I'll say yes, and he'll say okay. He'll say, if it's racism, invite me along. And most of the time I say, no, I'm gonna fight this battle, because I know if he steps in, no one is not there's no one more senior who can really say anything to him. But I'll say, and I'll say, thank you, I appreciate that. But I'll say, what I would like is some tips on how to manage the situation.
It's good to hear brothers supporting themselves in positions like that. So
we don't
always get that. But
you don't.
But thank you for your time, because I think what you are showing us is really eye-opening. Still, Abdul mentioned some things about being in hospital and taking medication and not feeling right about themselves, but still having it forced upon them. Yeah. Have you experienced that yourself? And I mean, I can agree with what Abdul's saying to a certain degree. I admit and I acknowledge that medication can also bring you back around, depending on what medication is. But in your experience, what would you say about that? Have you heard many other people say the same thing?
So I have, and when I have friends and family, if they're going through a crisis, a mental health crisis, before they get to crisis point, I'll always advise them, go and see your GP, go and get some counseling, speak to someone. I said, speak to me, speak to your sister, your brother, your cousins, and speak about it. Because I think to a large extent, we often internalize our struggles because it's, to a large extent, what is taught to us in the Western world. They will say British stiff upper lip, something going on, keep calm and carry on.
Yeah.
That's the way. That's not the way. As black people, we talk, we will sit down and we'll talk to our friends, we'll talk about our struggle, we'll talk about what's going on. And really, talking is the way to offload all these things which are on your mind, which are on your body. Because if you hold them in, it will start to, if you hold in your anger, if you hold in your pain, all these things you start to have physical reactions to them. I think one thing is, if someone's talking about something, sometimes if it's so painful, they'll hold their heart. And if you're talking about something and you happen to hold your heart or hold your breath, then you need to talk about that thing more. Because that act of holding that breath, it's an unnatural reaction to something. And if you're finding that you're speaking about and you're holding a part of your body, you have to think that this thing is actually having a physiological effect on your body. This thing which you're holding in, this emotion is affecting you.
But there's a higher amount of black people getting introduced into the system through the jail system and the criminal justice system, rather than the GPs, which should be the first port of call.
It should be 100%. And I think there's lots of reasons. I think personally, I don't have much faith in GPs. So there's something, this is me personally. If I feel like a pain in my leg or something, most of the time I'm not going to go to the GP, because the GP will say, take some paracetamol, this, that. And I know I've got paracetamol in my house. I don't need to go to somebody for them to tell me to take paracetamol.
But isn't that black man's mentality anyway? When it comes
It is. And it definitely is. And that's why, I'm saying, for me, and I think that, what I'll often do is, I'll go to the shop which sells herbs, and I'll get some herbs, and I'll do this, and I'll do some stretching, I'll do this, and I'll do that.
I was just gonna ask you about the holistic way to healing, physical and mental healing. Do you know about that? Do you agree with all of that, or?
100%, 100%. Like my grandfather, God rest his soul. Like he lived a long life. He lived to over 100 years old, and he believed in herbs. They said, there's a herb for everything. He said, if you've got a pain, you got this. He said herbs. He said, he said one thing is people. He said nowadays people eat too much, they drink too much, they smoke too much. He says, he said all these things you can do them. He said, however, don't do them too much because your body will start to reject certain things. He said, but there's a herb for everything. He said, it's just about knowing what the right herbs are. Like for me, like I've got my rum, and in that rum, I have a shot of rum, and in that rum, let me go and get it. Like I'll put all the herbs.
You saw your herbs in the bottle of rum, yeah?
Yeah.
It's true, you know.
Ramed.
Yeah, Ramed. haven't forgotten you, Abdul. 1 minute, let me just.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
What's that in there?
There's a lot in here. I think because it's winter time. Well, because we're coming out of winter, like there's ginger in here, there's curcumin, there's dandelion root, there's cola nut, there's what else is in here? So much. Like I go to the herbal shop and I just tell the lady, I said I need this, I need that. All the herbs you need in there every day. Like, I take my shot. And that's it.
One shot, keep the doctor away, yeah?
Yeah, and I pray that the ancestors look after me and people don't come across my path.
Abdul, your time.
Yeah, it's crazy situation. It's a crazy, crazy world we live in. At times it makes no sense at all. Yes, it's true what you're saying. It's crazy that says how life is for me, like it's been very crazy situation. I mean, I would rather die than to go to my doctor. I don't really trust my GP at all because they have been giving me so much stuff to take that would mess me up very badly, so I would prefer, I would rather suffer in pain than to go to them these days anyway. I mean, it all stems from 1994 when I came out of prison, so I don't really trust them because they've been messing me up ever since, and I feel there's a conspiracy against me, I'm not saying that to be far-fetched. It is definitely true.
Can I ask you a question?
What's that?
Do you think the medications helped you in any way, shape, or form?
I mean, if it did, I would have actually said so. But as it says, the thing is, right, they've been giving me all this kind of stuff to take, aripiprazole and all this kind of stuff, and the procyclidine that's supposed to counteract the side effects doesn't do nothing whatsoever. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. So they keep saying, well, take this. And if I say he's not doing nothing for me at all, they keep telling me, they keep saying, well, that's all there is. It's either you take it or you don't. So they were treating me so badly in there.
The reason why I asked you that is because you seem quite stable at the moment. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, you may seem as if I'm stable, but I'm not. I'm still suffering the side effects I'm still suffering the after effects of how I've been treated within the system, I mean,
I admit that every day there will be trials and tribulations to go on, but I mean, you obviously do seem a lot more stable to be able to deal with those trials and tribulations and the challenges of life, daily life,
Well, you could say I could comb my hair now and I can brush my teeth now, if that's what you mean. I can cook I can cook for myself now, and I can dress myself now, and I can have a shower now. All these things I was unable to do when I was on these debilitating poison. That's what I call it. It's strong words I'm using because that's what it is. Strong language I'm using because it goes beyond words to express the trauma that the system has put me through,
Right, okay.
I wanted to lash out as well when I was in there. I wanted to lash out very violently. I wanted to lash out because I wanted them to stop, injecting me with these poison. I wanted to lash out. I said to myself, what can I do? What can I do to escape these things? I want to if I could just turn invisible, if I could just be invisible and just just actually not let them put their hands on me to give me these things. I tell you, I was tremendously desperate.
Because what you're explaining there, I mean, it seems to be quite a common theme. There was a WhatsApp going around about this guy had the same situation. He ended up in hospital, and he said he started to feel better, and then they started to put him on medication and talking about he's intimidated. Because of his intimidation, they were saying that's what they could keep him on some medication.
They would say, yeah, this will calm you down. They would say, but it's not really a calm. It's not. It is so sedating that it just leaves you totally helpless to manage your everyday hygiene. It leaves you so debilitating. It just goes beyond words.
I mean, my personal experience, medication-wise, it's not been too bad. I mean, yes, there's times when you think the world is against you and everyone's trying to get you and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But the medication, certain medication can help, even for a time. I mean, I remember taking medication. I'm feeling like Ross, I'm back. You understand? Yeah. And on a day-to-day basis, I was living life, not hearing nothing, not really feeling nothing. All right, certain little side effects here and there. But the majority of the time, I was okay. The only problem with that was I started partying and living up life again. And medication affect the medication. Sorry, alcohol affect the medication. And then relapse happened. Yeah. You understand? So my point is, certain medications can help. It can get you back.
I'm not saying it doesn't. It doesn't help some people, but it didn't help me at all because I feel, as I said, there's a conspiracy out on me to get me, like to come after me. I'm not saying that because I'm having the courage to say these things. I'm talking honest truth here.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It all stems from when they tried to kill me in prison, and from then on, they've been coming after me ever since.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm mentally ill. I am not mentally ill, as they say. I'm paranoid schizophrenic. They say I have ideation of the prison. I'm paranoid schizophrenic, but it's not true at all. It is totally false. You see, when they want to lie on you, they label you. They label you. You see, that's what they've done to me.
All right.
I think one thing which I will say is I think medication definitely has a place within treatment, but I think like all things, it has to be the right medication for the right person.
It has to be the right medication Johnson, and moderation as well, isn't it?
Exactly. So everybody has like their own limits. We can't all eat the same food and be okay.
No.
The same ways we can't all take the same dose of medication and be okay. So
because just one more thing. Sorry. So about this. What it says on the label is all what it was doing to me on the leaflet, or what comes with on the leaflet is everything that was happening to me, and they didn't want to know about
the side effects.
Yeah, they didn't want to know nothing. The side effects. That's right. They didn't want to know nothing at all of what I was saying. You see? And they also say that it doesn't suit everybody. Well, if it doesn't suit anybody, why aren't you listening to me when I tell you it's not suiting me? Why aren't you listening to me? So the last resort was to try and kill myself. And I did it over the past 20 years. I've been trying to kill myself. I've taken an overdose at least 4 times on these prescribed drug, on these kind of things. I just don't know why these drug is classified. I just don't know. It's poison. It is very, very dangerous.
Well, we're not directly advocating the medication in that aspect, and we're glad that you're still here now to talk and say your part, Abdul. Because obviously it's not about you popping out. You understand? We want you to be here. We want other people in the same situation to be able to find someone to talk to, as Johnson said. Talk to a family member, talk to a friend, go to your GP. Do you understand? We don't want people committing suicide. Too many of us black men are committing suicide day to day.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to commit suicide. It's only when I was on these poison. That was making me suicidal.
Yeah, I over that.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
My GP is the GP that put me in these hospital in the first place. It's the GP that actually labeled me paranoid schizophrenic in the first place, and having this ideation of the prison system. They didn't want to know when I was talking about the prison system. They didn't want to know. Okay. So they put me in the hospital. They put me in these kind of psychiatric places to undermine what I was saying.
All right, against the will, yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a question for Johnson before we wrap it up? No one else? So much people and nobody want to talk.
What I was gonna say is Johnson, not putting no pressure on you neither, my brother, but you being in like a position of say an authority, couldn't you find a way that, you know, the process within the mental health service in regards like to black people is more tailored towards us and how it would benefit us within the mental health service?
Yeah, and I think I can. I guess I can definitely do my part, and I think we all have a part to play. And I think you know, for us, you know, as individuals, I think the most important thing is the way in which people are accessing those services. So if people are accessing the services at crisis point, and the first time you're having any sort of mental health treatment is when you're in hospital, what they will do is you'll be medicated. Unfortunately, because at that point, you know, your rights are taken away as an individual. You know, you have to then go to a tribunal to dispute your own sanity.
Isn't there still a process though for them to analyze? They have to run an assessment.
They do. Yeah. So there is, and I think what happens is, you know, at that point, if someone has reached crisis point, then the process takes over. You know, you become part of the system because you're assessed doctor and a approved mental health professional, and what they will do is section you. And that's why what I always say is the way in which we access services has to change. Because if you're accessing services informally, then you have more rights. You have your full rights.
Yes.
Right. You that's what I found.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by that? Someone recognizing that they have issues and walking into the hospital.
Yes, going to the GP or your local A&E.
That's it.
Yeah, if you're informal, then you've gone through and then you've still got your rights. So they can't section you, or you understand? Compulsory hospital care. So then you're still able to come in and out of the hospital. And you have more control.
Because that's it. I think the thing is, once you're under section, then you know your rights are taken away. Yeah, so when you are there informally, you are saying that I've recognized that there's a problem, there's an issue with my health, my mental health, and I need support and treatment. So you can then go through your options of support. And most of the time, because this is how a lot of people access mental health services, at that point, you can say you need psychology, you need, you know, talking therapies. And the first thing they won't say is medication. Like they can say, you know, would you like this medication? But at that point, you can say, no, what I'd rather try is try some talking therapies first. If that's not working, then at that point, it's a conversation. You are able to converse and you have options on your treatment. Once, if you go in to hospital under section, you have no rights.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The level of control.
So the decisions now that's going to be made. Yeah. Do you say that the decisions that are being made that ain't benefiting Black people going through the mental health service? Do you think that's down to a lack of experience, knowledge, and understanding, or is that based on more racism?
I would say both, because I think if we know that there's a route which we can access and we have options, then we'll take that route. But I think to a certain extent, like there's no system which is geared towards helping us. I'd say that, because at the end of the day, the systems are put in place to, control the public, to control the masses. But if we are aware, we know that there's certain things which we can do, which means that we have rights to say yes and rights to say no, then we should take them. And we have to, make our brothers and our sisters aware of those things, because
in certain cases, the person may not have capacity to make that decision.
So if you don't,
and then if rights are taken away and decisions are going to be made by someone else, we have to rely on them not being racist. We have to rely on them being experienced enough to make a balanced assessment, not based on any bias.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a lot of lack of knowledge, isn't it? It's a lack of knowledge because
there's a lack of knowledge.
Like you said, we're more likely to come in through the criminal justice system than we are to come in through the GP. So in that aspect, if we was aware and people...
that's the problem. When we're coming in through criminal justice, the criminal justice route rather than the medical route, the route which is prescribed for everybody, then that's a problem, because if you're coming in with the police, the police have arrested you, we know what the police can be like. We know that, the way in which they think is not necessarily geared towards our health, safety, and well-being. And yet, if they're the people who are taking us to the services, then the outcome is more likely not going to be geared towards our well-being.
So
at
least give thanks that you're in a certain position of say an authority, and obviously you have a concern also, because there's other Black people that you will come across in those positions of say an authority, and they don't even care how their own brothers and sisters are being treated. So at least you show concern.
Yeah, definitely. That's why they support all these initiatives which are helping Black people, because we need to be aware, we need to be empowered with knowledge to understand what is available for us, because the thing is, there are options, and there are other options rather than criminal justice. If you go to your GP and say it's a different route, you have different options rather than
you have more options.
You go in.
You have more options.
You have all the options.
But it's the lack of knowledge again. It's just the lack of knowledge and not knowing these things. When someone like a young youth starts to feel funny within themselves, not aware of what it is, not sure of it, don't really want to talk because they feel embarrassed or scared, hitting the road, out there, smoking whatever they're smoking, doing what they're doing, it's kind of highly likely that you're going to get through the criminal justice system than the GP. Because you're not talking to no one, and you're not expressing your feelings and your emotions and what you're going through to no one.
Yeah, but it seems like there's only one. It seems like there's only one option though for us to enter the mental health services and have a bit of say though, because if you enter it through the criminal justice system, your rights are taken away. If you go into hospital and they feel that you haven't got capacity to make decisions for yourself, they're gonna take over now again. So that's two ways. There's only one option, isn't there? But then average on men or women may feel that they've got issues within themselves, but maybe they feel like it will be issues they're gonna overcome over time.
But that's right.
Don't actually realize it's gonna reach to the level of a mental health problem.
Yeah, that's
You understand? And then again, as we were saying, once it reaches there now, whether you go hospital, through the criminal justice system, you have no rights. Decisions will be made for you that are not benefiting us.
Yeah.
So most of the time, if you go to your local A&E and you tell them, what they'll probably do is, because you've gone on your own volition, they're not likely to section you.
No.
What they will say most of the time is, if they have beds, they'll admit you informally.
Yeah.
And as an informal patient, you can come and you can go as you please.
Right.
Also, you have full rights, full capacity to say that, you know, this is the treatment options which I want, or which I'm not gonna have. So going through A&E is a much preferred route than criminal justice.
Yeah.
Much preferred.
Yes, definitely.
They may even give you just sedatives and stuff like that to calm you for the moment or for the time. So yeah, A&E, GP, that is a better way, preferred way, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, go for the GP, like there's options of talking therapies which are not even available to some people in secondary mental health services.
No.
And that's something which, you know, a lot of people are not aware of. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I think as men, we have a tendency to bottle up our problems. And, you know, it's only when things get, you know, get peak, get on top, that's when that's when action.
Definitely.
Yeah. But,
Definitely.
you know, we need to be more aware. We need to be to do things which ultimately are helping us, because, you know, if that pressure's there, we have to try and relieve it.
We have to educate them. We have to educate the youth then and make them know and aware that, no, you're feeling like this, there's someone you can talk to, there's someone you can go. Because otherwise you're gonna hit the road and do something mad, end up in the station. Then they're gonna call psychiatrists and doctor.
That's it. Yeah.
Right, anybody else with any questions? So we're just wrapping up now. It's 8:10.
I have a question, if that's all right.
Yep, go ahead.
Hi, Johnson. Sorry, I've been quiet. I haven't said a word to you. Very interesting talk and amazing information you've given. I was wondering. I feel if I feel that a certain type of medication, for example, some whatever, I don't want to take the prescribed medication, and I feel like something else works for me. How do I go about to get the my doctor to listen to me and say that how can I get this as my treatment plan?
Yeah. So what I would say is, if you have a nurse or a care coordinator or someone who is your key person, they are probably going to be more receptive to that discussion, because obviously they have built up more of a relationship with you. So you can tell them how the thing is affecting you. If it's just that, you know, the only person you see is a doctor, to be honest, like, I know that doctors can, and this is not all, but some of them can be, they don't have a lot of time. If you see a doctor, most of the time, if it's your GP or if it's a consultant, they don't have a lot of time. But the people who often have more time are your care coordinators, care navigators, nurses, the people who you see more on a regular basis. So they will often be more receptive to the discussions. And then part of that is to say to them, you know, this is how this thing's affecting me. I would prefer if I can be supported to change this medication because of the effects. You know, at the end of the day, you know, you want to get better and they want you to get better. So if you can, you know, say that something is affecting you and not having a positive effect on your mental health, then they're more likely to be receptive about that. Because, you know, at the end of the day, they want you to get better. Mental health services are overrun with people, and if people are able to say that something's affecting them and it's not doing, if there's no benefit, then there's more than likely they'll want to change it for you.
Can I just ask quickly, before we close up? I'm a person that I take my medication and them things there, but I'm also dealing with CBD. Have you heard anything, any good experiences or people
CBD?
CBD.
Yeah. So,
What's your story?
sorry. Firstly, Sydney, did I answer your question?
Absolutely, yes, you did. You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It put me in the right foot. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So CBD, yeah, I've heard lots of good things about CBD. I think, but I think like everything, it's the doses, and it's not also for everybody. Like CBD, you know, cannabis, it's you know, it's derived from cannabis. Remove the THC is taken out, and it has lots of positive effects. I know lots of people who take CBD for a lot of reasons: arthritis, pain, sleep. Cannabis to me it's a wonder herb, because it has the power to heal and provide so much good. I think, however, one of the concerns these days is that the amount of THC in cannabis, which is kind of sold, and I'm talking about skunk and super skunk and all this and all that, is often the levels are too high.
Yeah, definitely.
So and that's the psychoactive component, and that's too high. So the CBD as itself is the medicine without the possible harmful harmful chemicals, if that makes sense. And I think what has been happening is, you know, it's been engineered to the point where it is so potent. You know, before I used to be a smoker before, but quite a few years ago, I said, what is going around it's not for me, you know.
The skunk we're talking about, yeah?
Yeah. I say it's not for me because, you know, most of the time the names itself were something from I used to say, like, the names is something you'd hear on the Sci-Fi Channel or Food.
Real talk. The name alone deters you, man.
That's it. I said, if it's something from the Sci-Fi Channel or the Food Network, it's not for me. Oh, come on. Yeah. Like, I have to try and look after these great souls. But CBD in itself, you know, it's been engineered that the positive effects are there. And as an oil form, you know, I used to know a guy who used to say, you know, what he used to do is to whip it up, add it to his butter, and spread it on his toast in the morning.
Okay.
So it works.
Do you think that CBD is a possible medication replacement or not?
I think it is, and I think, you know, at the moment, what is happening is there's a huge shift, because I think in the 70s, what they were looking at is they were looking at things like psilocybin, magic mushrooms, and these are ways to treat trauma and therapy. So people who experience trauma, they used to be it's the rewind therapy. And what they would do is they would microdose on magic mushrooms, and then they would go through a script to allow that person to relive that traumatic event. But because it was in this
controlled environment,
in under the wonderful, calm, colorful glow of the trip, you would be able to, your brain would then form new neural pathways, which would allow you to then reprocess that. So you'd then be able to think about the trauma, relive the trauma, but because you'd had this haze, it doesn't affect you in a traumatic way. So there's a lot of research.
That was supposed to be one of the reasons why they fought against the hippies, because the hippies dealt with some of those psychedelics as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a treatment where he's trying to give you a pleasurable experience rather than the traumatic experience that you had last time.
Definitely. Yeah. So those things, definitely. I think those treatments at some point they will start to become funded on the NHS. However, at the moment, there's private rehab places in London who are starting this treatment. I know there's a lot of funding which is going into trying to make these legal and accessible. However, at the moment, they're still on the periphery, and they're not really available under mainstream mental health services.
Right.
However, saying that,
money is being made through the pharmaceutical companies.
So much money. So much money. There's too much to be made from big pharma. And I think also, you know, there's places in South America where they're using ayahuasca to treat addiction with very good results. So ayahuasca is a South American herb, which is called the spirit wine, and you know, people go, they imbibe it. You know, it makes you, you know, it makes you like vomit. And then, you know, with the aid of the shaman, you then kind of go into, you know, relive some of those things. And what they say is it, you know, it helps reprogram the brain. So the receptors, which, you know, the addictive chemicals used to associate with, and then are reprogrammed. It's like they're white blank.
Yeah. Last question, since you just mentioned shaman, and then we wrap up. Yeah. Do you think mental health issues is a form of spiritual attack? Since you just mentioned shaman, and I understand what a shaman is, and then they call a psychiatrist when a psychiatrist is really a shaman. So do you think it is to a spiritual attack? What causes these mental issues for so many people?
So I would say yes and no. I think it would be overly simplistic to say it's a spiritual attack. However, like I believe in spirituality. I'm a big believer in spirituality. I'm a big believer in, you know, and I think one thing is, as Black people, as a people, we've had a lot of trauma and a lot of intergenerational trauma. So this is not just your trauma, it's the trauma of your parents, parents. And I think that is something which does affect us. What I used to say to a friend who's a psychologist is, you know, the psychologists have become the spiritual leaders. You know, the psychiatrists become the kind of spiritual leaders. And for us, we need to have an understanding of our spirituality, of what spirituality means to us before we can, I guess, say if something is a spiritual attack or not. So I'm not sure if I answered, but yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Johnson, for turning up and giving us a good talk on mental health and your experiences within it.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here and talk to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we might have to have you back again if that's all right.
It's a pleasure. I'll come back anytime you need me or want me to come back.
All right.
And generally, you know, when I'm available, I'm going to log in.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Johnson, I was wondering, the guy who's above you. Yeah. What's his name again? Did you say? Edward, that's right. If I wanted to make contact with Edward, is it possible? Would it be possible? No.
I guess it would be. I guess what I would ask is, why do you want to contact?
Why?
Yeah.
No, if supposing that I had, say, a problem with the services, I'm actually I have an issue with the services or whatever, and I want to make some kind of a complaint or whatever. Is it the right person to go through to him? I don't know.
Not really, because I think what tends to happen is complaints, like there's a process with complaints. So firstly, the complaints they'd go to the team.
I've been through that already.
And then they'd go, if you're not happy with the team response, they'd go to PALS. If you're not happy with that, then that complaint would actually go to the Parliamentary Ombudsman for Complaints. So that's a parliamentary body set up to look into any complaints from NHS.
Right. I've been through all that anyway. It didn't work for me at all. Yeah, I just wanted to say, no, it didn't work for me at all. I went through that process many times. I'm sick and tired of going through that process. Sick and tired. I've been going through that process for many years, and it hasn't worked for me at all.
Yeah. All right then, guys.
Sorry to hear
Yeah.
that, Abdul, but
Thank you.
Johnson, respect, my brother.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
No
Enough
worries,
respect.
bro.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, Johnson. Much appreciated.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mark. All right,
No
you
worries.
guys take care. Stay blessed.
Stay
Thanks,
blessed.
man.
You too.